Florida. 45 million tourists visit every year. They come for the beaches, the theme parks, the eternal sunshine. They come for the promise of paradise. But behind the postcard, behind the resort pools and the neon-lit boardwalks, there is another Florida, one that the tourism boards don't advertise, one measured not in sunsets, but in crime statistics. Tonight, we go city by city, number by number, through the 10 most dangerous places in the Sunshine State as of 2026. Some of these cities will surprise you. Some will confirm what you already feared. All of them tell a story that Florida doesn't want told. Stay with us. Before we begin, let's talk about how danger is measured. Law enforcement agencies across Florida report their crime data annually to the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program. From that data, analysts calculate what's known as a violent crime rate, the number of violent offenses per 100,000 residents. That figure accounts for population size, which is critical. A city of 5,000 people with 50 violent crimes is statistically far more dangerous than a city of 500,000 with 200. It's not just about raw numbers, it's about the odds that on any given day, in any given neighborhood, something goes wrong. The crimes counted in that violent category are serious ones: murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. Property crimes, burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft are tracked separately and factor into our rankings as well, because they tell us something equally important about the texture of daily life in these communities. Florida's statewide violent crime rate has hovered around 380 incidents per 100,000 people in recent years. The cities on this list blow past that number by a wide margin. In some cases, they more than triple it. These aren't abstract statistics. They represent real people, real neighborhoods, real consequences. With that understood, let's count down. Number 10, Lake City. Population roughly 13,000. Tucked into the northern corridor of Florida, near the Georgia border, Lake City sits at the crossroads of Interstate 10 and Interstate 75, a geographic position that has historically made it a transit point, not just for travelers, but for drugs moving up and down the eastern seaboard. That flow of narcotics has long fed into cycles of violence and property crime that the city has struggled to contain. Lake City's violent crime rate sits significantly above the state average, with aggravated assault accounting for the bulk of reported incidents. The city's poverty rate is notable. Nearly a quarter of residents live below the federal poverty line, and that economic distress creates conditions where crime can take root and grow. Columbia County, which surrounds it, has invested in expanded law enforcement presence over recent years, but the structural issues, unemployment, inadequate mental health infrastructure, limited youth programming, remain stubbornly in place. What makes Lake City particularly worth noting is the disparity between its modest size and its crime burden. Visitors passing through on the highway rarely give it a second glance. But for those who live there, particularly in its most distressed neighborhoods, the city presents daily challenges that the interstate signs don't hint at. At number 10, Lake City opens our list as a reminder that danger in Florida isn't confined to its major metro areas. Number 9. Avon Park. A small city in Highlands County with a population of under 10,000 people, Avon Park has the unfortunate distinction of being one of the most statistically dangerous small cities in the entire state. Its violent crime rate per capita consistently ranks among Florida's highest, a grim achievement for a community of its size. Highlands County sits in the agricultural heartland of Central Florida, far from the beaches, far from the tourist economy that props up so much of the state's wealth. The region relies heavily on seasonal agricultural labor, and the economic volatility that comes with that reality creates instability. Avon Park in particular has seen high rates of robbery and assault, with certain residential areas flagged repeatedly by local law enforcement as chronic hotspots. Community advocates in the area have long argued that Avon Park's crime problem is inseparable from its poverty problem. Unemployment runs high, educational attainment runs low. Social services are stretched thin across a rural landscape that makes outreach difficult. The city has seen incremental progress in community policing initiatives, but the data, as of 2026, still places it firmly in the danger tier. Small in population, large in per capita risk. That is Avon Park's difficult reality. Number 8. Daytona Beach. Now we move into more recognizable territory. Daytona Beach is world famous, home to NASCAR's crown jewel race, Bike Week, Spring Break, crowds that have been drawing college students for generations. But behind the roar of engines and the beachfront revelry, Daytona Beach carries one of the highest crime rates among Florida's mid-sized cities. With a population of around 70,000, Daytona Beach records violent crime rates that are more than double the state average. Its property crime figures are equally alarming. Certain zip codes within the city, particularly those away from the beachfront tourist zone, experience concentrated poverty and corresponding criminal activity. The city's west side has historically been its most challenged area, where resources are scarcest and crime is most persistent. Daytona Beach has faced its challenges publicly. Local officials have acknowledged the severity of the issue and have launched various initiatives, from increased police patrols to housing assistance programs. But progress has been slow, complicated by the city's dual identity, a resort destination that depends on its reputation for fun, and a residential community grappling with deep socioeconomic fractures. The gap between the beachfront hotel strip and the inland neighborhoods just a few miles away is not merely geographic. It is economic, social, and in many ways a matter of survival. Number 7, Florida City. Sitting at the southern tip of Miami-Dade County, Florida City is in many ways the geographic gateway to the Florida Keys. It is the last municipality before the highway thins out over open water. It is also per capita one of the most dangerous cities in the state. Florida City has a population of around 13,000, and it is one of the poorest cities in Miami-Dade County, an area otherwise associated with luxury real estate and global finance. That contrast is striking. Within miles of some of the wealthiest zip codes in America, Florida City residents face median household incomes well below the national average, high rates of food insecurity, and a violent crime rate that reflects those material conditions. Robbery and aggravated assault are the leading violent crime categories here. The city's proximity to major transportation corridors, including U.S. Route 1, has historically made it a point of concern for law enforcement monitoring the movement of contraband. Local police have worked with county and federal agencies in enforcement operations, but the underlying economic and social conditions that drive criminal behavior have proven resistant to enforcement alone. Florida City is a city caught between worlds, geographically spectacular, socioeconomically distressed, and statistically among the most dangerous in Florida. Number 6, Pompano Beach. Broward County's Pompano Beach has undergone significant redevelopment in recent years. New waterfront projects, upscale developments, a revamped downtown. But redevelopment and public safety are not always the same thing, and the crime data reminds us of that clearly. Pompano Beach sits between Fort Lauderdale to the south and Boca Raton to the north. With a population of roughly 115,000, its violent crime rate is elevated well above the state average, and its property crime figures are particularly high. Certain neighborhoods, especially those east of Federal Highway, have seen sustained criminal activity that clashes sharply with the city's marketing image as an emerging coastal destination. The rapid influx of development and rising property values has paradoxically created additional stress in communities where longtime residents feel displaced and economically squeezed. Housing instability, researchers consistently note, is a strong predictor of crime. As Pompano Beach continues its upward trajectory in terms of real estate values, the question of who benefits and who is left behind remains central to understanding its crime landscape. At number 6, it stands as a cautionary note about the limits of economic revitalization when social investment doesn't keep pace. Number 5, Riviera Beach. Palm Beach County is best known for its extraordinary wealth. The gilded estates of Palm Beach Island, the yachts, the old money. Riviera Beach sits directly across the waterway from that wealth, and the contrast is one of the starkest in all of Florida. With a population of around 35,000, Riviera Beach has recorded violent crime rates that are among the highest in the entire state, not just in Palm Beach County. Homicide, robbery, and assault are persistent concerns. The city has a predominantly black population and has struggled for decades with underinvestment, discriminatory lending patterns that limited home ownership and wealth accumulation, and a relationship with local law enforcement that has at times been tense and contested. The city's leadership has pursued economic development, particularly around its waterfront marina district, with the goal of transforming Riviera Beach into a destination. Some of that development has materialized, but crime reduction has not followed automatically. Advocates argue that without addressing the generational wealth gap, improving school quality, and expanding mental health and substance abuse services, the headline numbers won't meaningfully change. Riviera Beach is a city with enormous potential and a painful present. And at number 5, it demands serious attention. Number 4, Orlando? Yes, Orlando. The city beautiful, the theme park capital of the world, home to Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, and a tourism industry that generates tens of billions of dollars annually. And yet, Orlando makes this list, and it does so convincingly. With a population of around 320,000, Orlando's sheer size means its raw crime numbers are substantial. But even adjusting for population, the city's violent crime rate significantly exceeds the state average. The areas that tourists never see, the neighborhoods west and north of the tourist corridor, communities like Pine Hills, long nicknamed Crime Hills by locals, experience levels of violence that would be front-page news in most American cities. The disparity between Orlando's global brand and its local reality is enormous. The tourism economy creates jobs, but many of those jobs are low-wage, part-time, and without benefits, contributing to economic precarity for a large portion of the city's workforce. Housing costs have risen sharply as the city's population has grown, further straining working families. Orlando's police department has implemented a range of community-oriented strategies, and there have been measurable improvements in some areas. But at number 4 on this list, the data speaks plainly. The magic is not equally distributed. Number 3, Miami. Of course, the city that gave the world Art Deco architecture, Miami Vice, a globally recognized skyline, and a cultural energy unlike anywhere else in the United States. Miami is magnetic, electric, and undeniably one of the most dangerous major cities in Florida. With a population of around 450,000 and a greater metropolitan area of nearly 3 million, Miami's crime rates, adjusted per capita, remain well above both state and national averages. The city's violent crime is concentrated in specific areas: Liberty City, Overtown, Little Haiti, parts of Allapattah, communities that have experienced concentrated poverty, racial segregation, and disinvestment for generations. These are neighborhoods where the median household income can be less than a third of what residents earn just a few miles away in Brickell or Coconut Grove. Miami is also a city with a complex relationship to criminal enterprise. Its history with drug trafficking, the cocaine cowboy era of the late 1970s and 1980s left permanent institutional scars, and its continued role as a point of entry for international smuggling networks means that organized crime remains a feature of the landscape, even as its face has changed. The Miami-Dade Police Department is one of the largest in the country and has invested heavily in technology and community programs. But the structural divides that generate crime, inequality, housing insecurity, lack of economic mobility, remain formidable. At number 3, Miami is as complicated as it is iconic. Number 2, Fort Lauderdale. The Venice of America, they call it. A city threaded with canals, lined with yachts. It is also, as of 2026, the second most dangerous city in Florida by violent crime rate. Fort Lauderdale's crime picture is in many ways a concentrated version of what we've seen across this list. Property crime is rampant. Motor vehicle theft and burglary are particularly elevated. Violent crime clusters in neighborhoods that the tourists and the yachting crowd rarely visit. Areas of northwest Fort Lauderdale where poverty is entrenched and where the distance between the waterfront and daily reality is measured in more than just blocks. Fort Lauderdale has also been a focal point for concerns about homelessness and its intersection with crime. The city has struggled for years with a large unsheltered population, and the policy responses have often been punitive rather than remedial. Housing costs in Broward County have skyrocketed in recent years, pushing more residents into precarity. Law enforcement has expanded its presence, and the city has piloted several innovative social intervention programs, but the numbers have remained stubbornly high. At number 2, Fort Lauderdale sits as a reminder that beauty and danger are not mutually exclusive, and that a city's surface and its statistics can tell very different stories. And number 1, the most dangerous city in Florida in 2026, Palatka. A small city of roughly 10,000 people in Putnam County, in northeastern Florida, Palatka holds the grim distinction of recording the highest violent crime rate per capita in the state. Let that land for a moment. Not Miami, not Orlando, Palatka. Putnam County is one of the most economically distressed counties in Florida. Poverty rates are among the highest in the state. Educational attainment is low. The local economy, once anchored by manufacturing and agriculture, has eroded over decades, leaving behind a community with diminished opportunity and compounding social stressors. Palatka's violent crime rate, when calculated per 100,000 residents, surpasses every major and mid-sized city in Florida. The concentration of poverty in a small geographic area with limited law enforcement resources creates conditions that are extraordinarily difficult to stabilize. Palatka is not a name that appears in travel magazines. It does not have a notable sports franchise or a famous beach. What it has is a community of real people living under pressures that most of Florida's tourists and snowbirds will never encounter. Local advocates and city officials have called repeatedly for state investment, for mental health infrastructure, for job training programs, for youth intervention services. Those calls have not yet been answered at the scale required. The fact that Palatka sits atop this list is not an indictment of its people. It is an indictment of the systems, economic, political, social, that have failed them. The most dangerous city in Florida is not the one with the most famous skyline. It is the one that has been most thoroughly left behind. We began with Florida's image, the beaches, the sunshine, the promise. We end with something more complicated and more honest. Every city on this list is more than its crime rate. Each one contains communities of resilience, of neighborhood pride, of people working hard under difficult circumstances to build something better. Crime statistics are not a verdict on the people who live within them. They are a measure of conditions that are, at least in theory, changeable. What this list ultimately reveals is inequality. The most dangerous places in Florida are, almost without exception, places where poverty is deepest, where investment has been most absent, where the gap between the state's spectacular wealth and its most vulnerable residents is widest. That is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. And patterns, unlike postcard images, can be changed if there is the political will to change them. Florida will keep attracting tourists. It will keep growing. Its southern sun will keep drawing people from colder places in search of something better. The question is whether that growth, that wealth, that sunshine will ever reach the cities on this list in any meaningful way. If this got you thinking, subscribe. We do this for cities across Florida, and there is plenty more to uncover. We'll see you in the next video.